Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to Backup Blueshirts. I am your host, Michael Sparacino, a.k.a. Shades, alongside Brendan Mulroy, a.k.a. Mulgoon, a.k.a. The Big Goon. And we got a special guest coming on the podcast later in the episode, the one and only Mr. Rick Capiniello. But before that, we're just going to talk about the last 4 games, 2 of which have been good, the other 2 not so good. Let's start off with Arizona, where the Rangers didn't even show up the first period, and then showed up the second period where Tony D had 2 goals.
Holy shit, Mike, you just dove right into it. You didn't even get a chance to say, you forgot 2 things. One, Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
So obviously,
Trick or
everybody
treat.
make sure they watch as many Halloween movies on AMC as they can the next 2 days. And also,
I did not
you
dedicate.
didn't even dedicate the episode to Derek Stepan. Funny
Episode
enough,
number
which we're
21.
going to talk about. Who do we play? Arizona and Derek Stepan. And like you said, we dove into the first period, Mike, and we just got absolutely destroyed. It was 21-4.
Originally
23. Apparently, they decided, hey, listen, the Rangers had a bad period. We'll just give them an extra shot.
Yeah.
Feel bad for them.
Yeah,
So,
pretty much.
yeah, that was basically exactly how the shots on goal tell it. We got absolutely destroyed in the first period.
Yeah,
Early
especially
penalties.
we had no puck possession whatsoever. Yeah. If I remember correctly, all we did was rush up the ice a couple times and get shots off that where we didn't get any second chance opportunities.
Definitely. Yeah, so that's...
But then again, this game has been over a week old already, so
yeah,
my memory's kind of hazy.
Now, I mean, we don't have to dive too much in detail about this one. Rangers basically played a better second period. Did Tony D score both of those goals in the second? I think he may have. Or that or was in the third. Anyway.
They were both in the second.
Yep. He scores 2 goals against the team that drafted him, which is pretty awesome.
Ties the game up twice.
So,
he responded well to the benching.
Yeah. I mean, he followed it up with a nice performance in the next game as well, which we'll dive into. But, yeah, so anyway, the game ends up going to overtime.
And
I don't
as soon as the puck drops in overtime, Arizona just says, we got puck magnet. And
yeah, I don't think
Panarin gave open space to Dvorak.
Sniped top shelf.
And he sniped it top shelf. And I didn't realize this initially, but Clayton Keller, who's on my fantasy team, who I had on the bench that night, got an assist on the overtime winning goal, his first point of the night. And let's just say I was furious.
Well, Mike, now you learned your lesson, kid. You better make sure you check those lineups next time.
I do check my lineups.
Well,
I intentionally left them out because he's been playing horrible in fantasy.
Yeah. But hey, listen, but you know what,
we got a loser point, which we racked up many of those.
I would have put him
season.
in only because Arizona was actually pretty solid so far to the start of the season. But I mean, I don't know how they've been, but they actually have been pretty good. But anyway,
they're a good team. They're a good
team. We move on from the Arizona loss in overtime, and I think we had fans kind of questioning at this point. I think they're fed up with a little bit of the defense. Yeah. Also, at this point, I think, this is before the last 3 games, but I think a lot of fans were like, are we just going to freaking play Kakko already, for Christ's sakes? Because I think everybody was kind of asking, like, can we just give this kid some time to play? And even after the Arizona game, he hadn't played much, and then Quinn was like, oh, he got up and caught up in the flow of the game, whatever the fuck that means.
Oh, I hate that. That
sometimes
term.
He gives some ridiculous answers, but anyway, so I think the Rangers responded the last couple games. Did he play on the top line in all 3 games?
Well, 2 out of the last 3 games.
2 out of the last 3 games.
We responded.
And,
he definitely played, or at least at some point played during the Boston game on the top line. Definitely, he started.
Yes, he did.
He started.
Yeah. He was a minus
on the top line.
He was a
versus Tampa.
-3 that game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't blame that on him. The entire team basically shit the bed.
But before that, before the Boston game, we'll dive into a game that,
we actually won.
We were in attendance for as well, which is probably why they won.
Well, I mean, I was in attendance against Arizona, 20 rows from the ice. In all seriousness, the last time I remember sitting in the 100s, like around 20 rows from the ice, I'm pretty sure we played St. Louis and we lost in a shootout. So
I'll tell you one thing.
You know what that means, right? If every time I sit in the 100s, we lose in overtime, apparently.
Well, I'll tell you the last time I was probably in the 100 section, which actually, no, I don't think that was considered the 100s because I went to a game like 1 or 2 years ago against Chicago, I sat like center ice. I was literally sitting next to the camera guy.
Nice.
But I don't think that was the 100 section. But I remember one of the last games, for some reason, I don't know why I remember this. My dad got tickets for some guy from his job. It was like section 100 something. Nigel Dawes scored a hat trick against the Devils. I'll never forget that. And
That's a
Nigel
throwback.
Dawes is throwback. And
That definitely
also
throwback.
another just ridiculous fact about Nigel Dawes. Obviously, his career in the NHL didn't work out, but when he went over to the KHL, apparently he's like one of the top scorers all time in the KHL.
Interesting how things work
So
out.
anyway, I don't know why we dove into that, but just a little fun fact. But anyway, Mike, we were in attendance for the Buffalo game, and
Yes,
it
we
was
were.
just absolute destruction.
And the funny thing is, I didn't know you were going to the game until that morning. Like, I knew I was going to the game like a week beforehand.
yeah, my brother had given me the tickets. I got lucky.
I was sitting in 209, if I remember. No. What you were sitting in 210, right?
Either that or I was in 209, row 10.
Yeah, that's right. Brendan
were
was in
over.
209, row 10. I was in 210, row 9. And our buddy Liam was in 211. And I swear to God, I texted him, if you're in row 8, I'm playing Lotto tonight. He ended up being in row 6. I was like, damn.
But anyway, funny thing is, we have no idea that we're sitting next to each other. We knew we were at the same game.
Oh, no, we had no idea if Liam was at the game.
Well, that too. Well, I did because I played him in Shell, so I knew he gotten tickets.
Right,
I knew he had gotten tickets from the NHL that day because he said he was going regardless.
Yeah.
But he works for the NHL store, so that's how I know him. But anyway, I get up to celebrate the first goal. Shades texts me. He's like, "Look over to your right." I look over, and the legend Mike Shades is over there. And sure enough, Rangers kick ass, Listen, fans, you guys want to, throw in money for me and Shades to be at every game. And listen, we're 1-0, so that puts us on pace for an 80, well, I guess how many games they play at home? 41. 41 games at home. They could go potentially 41-0 if we're at all the games. So I'm just throwing that out there. But anyway, yeah, we'll dive into this game. I mean, the Rangers basically dominated Buffalo.
We actually got outshot.
We did,
33 to 24.
Yeah, we did.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the Buffalo game, they definitely capitalized on their chances for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
And it was definitely a breakout game for a lot of the guys on our team. Strome, Lemieux had a way better game. That was the first game where Howden was actually like noticeable offensively for sure. Not that he's like ever bad, but he's just kind of like out there sometimes with Howden. But he had a solid game.
Strome did score twice.
Tony DeAngelo
scored
as well
again.
So he had 3 goals and 4 goals? No, 3 goals.
3 goals in 2 games.
3 goals in 2 games for Tony.
And Chris Kreider got on the board in the most hilarious fashion.
Yeah, that's
literally
the way that
shoots it, goes off a defender who's like 15 feet
First
in front
of all,
of the
I thought
net,
that was
and then just
Lemieux's
goes
goal.
back into the net. It was pretty funny.
I thought that was Lemieux's goal, funny enough.
So did I.
But apparently they gave it to Kreider. They felt bad for the guy. Like, fucking guy can't score, so we'll just give him Lemieux's goal. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, that was a pleasant surprise, that goal went in.
I got to be honest with you. Going into that game, I thought we were going to get destroyed, considering Buffalo was 8-1-1 coming into the game.
I was optimistic about that game because we lost 5 in a row when I was at the game before, which was the 5th in a row, and we lost in overtime. I was optimistic going into that game.
And honestly, like, Buffalo to just not look like a team that was 8-1-1, they were just so, like, terrible with turning the puck over. That was the first game of the season, I think, that we saw the Rangers cause more turnovers than they actually gave the puck up. And one play for me that like summed the whole game up for Buffalo was we were shorthanded and Eichel just like had the puck at the point, and he just for some reason just decides he wants to just do a blind backhand pass at the top of the point, which led to that 2-on-1 between Howden and Strome. And I was just like, oh my God, what was he doing? But I'll take it.
Yeah, honestly, that game was a little misleading because, one, we got outshot. We got pretty much not killed on faceoffs, but 59 to 40%.
Yeah.
59.1, 40.9. Penalty minutes were dead even. We did nothing on the power play, which is becoming a little bit of a theme again lately with this team. I mean, we had 22 blocks to 5. Dan Girardi, who we'll get we'll mention him again. We had more giveaways, though, and same amount of takeaways. So it was a little
I think
misleading.
the mistakes, I will say one thing, the mistakes definitely go way more under the radar when you win a game.
Oh, absolutely.
As
But the second period, we got outshot 15-4. It was not that good. Third period was a lot more even.
Yeah.
But people overlook the bad when you win a game by 4 goals.
Exactly.
So.
And when you scored 3 goals in the first period.
And when me and Brendan go to the same game.
Exactly. but anyway, so, hey, listen, I would take that as probably one of their better wins of the season. And then
which they did not follow up good in the next game against Boston.
Yeah, and they decided, hey, listen.
That game was a shit show, to be short and sweet and simple.
That was really just an all-around, it was just brutal.
Yeah.
And
you want to know what's funny? I remember
we got
we
dominated
played
in the first period, basically. I mean, it took us about 10, 11 minutes in the first period to get a shot on goal.
Yeah.
Which we ended up scoring on. Brendan Smith puts the puck on net. Haley goes to the net, scores.
Michael Haley, first goal as a New York Ranger.
We come out of that period with the lead.
1-0.
Somehow. Well, the somehow was basically Lundqvist playing out of his mind in the first period.
Pretty much. And then
then it all just went downhill from there. Literally a minute into the period, Pasternak's driving the net. Hayek just decided
11 seconds into the period.
First of all, I don't know what we got to just talk about.
Oh,
that
yes,
play.
yes, we do.
First of all, it starts out the point. He comes down. Marchand comes down first. Trouba throws the worst hit I've ever seen him throw in his entire life. Not only does he throw a hit, completely misses him. Smashes into the boards, and then Hayek's just like, well, fuck this. It was
I'm gonna do a dive snow angel sort
It was
of.
basically like when you're down by like 8 goals in the NHL video game, and you're just so mad that you're getting destroyed, so you just decide you're gonna take a penalty at all costs just to make the game go longer, just to piss the guy off. That's basically what Hayek was trying to do on that play. He was just like, fuck this. I'll just dive and take Pastrnak out. So he just slides across in probably one of the worst defensive plays I've ever seen. Takes Pastrnak out, who of
goes
course
barreling into
Lundqvist.
And then what do you know? Bergeron picks up the loose puck, puts it in the net, and immediately Hank and every Rangers fan is pissed.
Yeah. I mean... And then the call on the ice obviously stood as a goal.
After review.
Then, of course, they scored,
after.
A minute after to make it 2-1, and then it was basically all downhill from there. And basically, Boston didn't do anything.
No, that was literally the turning point of the game.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that was the turning point of the game. Lundqvist was frustrated. Everybody was frustrated. And, this is one of those ones where, by
the way, Marchand scored 57 seconds later.
57 seconds later on just one of the worst defensive plays probably of the year by the Rangers. Just let him literally stand in front and deke the shit out of Hank. But anyway, just when I evaluate that game defensively, that to me was like a prime example of the Boston Bruins just scouting out the Rangers prior to the game. And just knowing, hey, listen, if we just get pucks deep on the Rangers and we know that they're so weak in front of the net that we can just get that pass cross goal basically every single time, minus the Chara goal that game, I think every single goal the Bruins scored was literally a pass, like across the ice pass shot. I mean, the defense was basically non-existent that game.
No.
They looked like they had given no effort in that game whatsoever until they decided, hey, let's score 2 goals late in the period. Probably made the game look a lot closer than it should have been. Looked, because it was not close at all.
If you really think about it, though, that was mostly Boston's top line just dominating us.
Yeah, definitely.
Their top line scored 5 out of the 6
Well, listen,
or 7
Boston's
goals that
top
game.
line has scored 60% of their goals this year.
Yeah.
So, obviously, they're freaking playing out of their mind, and it still continued even last night where they were going off again. And their line there.
Their top line scored 5 out of those 7.
But you know what, though? It kind of showed us about the Rangers. Like, hey, listen, if you kind of just body them and, you outstrong them, they don't really have the guys right now that are going to throw bodies around, and they ain't going to put Haley and Smith and McKegg or whoever was playing in that game on that line out there against them. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, this is a
game
we just want to forget.
And obviously the most important thing to take away from the game, unfortunately, was in the first period, Bergeron nailed Mika Zibanejad.
On a backwards...
Well, it was basically
what do you call that play?
I would say
backwards hit?
I would basically consider that like the puck's in the corner and Bergeron's going to get it, and he gets there first, and he knows that Zibanejad's going to put a little pressure on him, so he kind of threw a hit.
Yeah.
which Zibanejad wasn't expecting, and he just caught him basically like in the face with it. It looked like he just nailed him in the face with the shoulder. It was basically shoulder to face.
Yeah, shoulder to jaw.
So I mean, it obviously had to affect Zibanejad because he didn't come back in that game, and he hasn't come back since.
No, and I've read reports on Twitter from, I think it was Brett Krajalis or one of those guys. He did not practice today either.
Well, I mean, he's had his concussion issues, so let's hope that this isn't a concussion, but we'll see.
From what I've read, people say they don't think it is.
Well, obviously,
it was more shoulder to jaw than
they're
anything.
so bland with everything.
Yeah,
It's
upper
like
body
upper
injury,
body
lower body injury.
So you don't know what it is, which is obviously their plan. They don't want to let everybody know what it is.
Yeah.
But it sucks not having Zibanejad in the lineup. I don't know if he would have necessarily made a difference that game in particular.
I don't know.
But
with
it's
the way
hard
the
to
whole
say.
team laid an egg, I don't know.
Yeah, but there wasn't much positive to take away from that game, I would say, really. I mean,
no, there wasn't, but...
there wasn't, but I will say the only positive thing I want to say happened, and that was in the post-game, and I think what Quinn had said in the post-game really not pissed the team off, but it kind of like sparked them a little bit.
Yeah.
Because basically he was saying, what did he say directly? He was...
I'm trying to pull
what
up
was
the
his
quote
direct
as quickly
his
as
direct
possible
quote.
at the
He was
moment.
basically saying that we just didn't have enough fight, and
we need to understand how hard we need to play every night.
exactly. So he was basically calling guys out. He was saying that he felt that like just because you're skilled, now it's coming back to me. He was basically saying like just because you're skilled, like the game's all about it's all about doing like trying to score and trying to do what you do when somebody's trying to stop you.
Yeah.
And he said tonight, we're not doing that. And he says, I'm wondering like who he was talking about directly. I feel like this is kind of maybe like Buchnevich or like maybe Panarin even, where he's talking about, we have skill guys that feel like they don't have to like work as hard. And he's saying, that's not the case, basically. But I feel like whatever he said, all those words obviously resided with the team. Apparently there was like a heated like team meeting as well.
And that might have been after the Arizona game.
Was it after the Arizona game?
It was one of those. It was either that game or after the Vancouver or the game after.
Oh, well, either way.
It was one of those three games, but now that woke Strome up too.
Yeah. Well, listen,
which was needed.
Either way, I mean, the Rangers had to make adjustments. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, whatever they did between the Boston game and the Tampa game worked.
Yeah, and I think it was a combination of things. We'll start out with that. I think that was definitely a big thing that definitely ignited a spark with the team because I mean the way they played in that Tampa game, it looked like a totally different team.
Now, hold on, before we get to the Tampa game, we have great news. Chytil and Ryan Lindgren get called up to the team.
Oh, exactly.
The bad news, Zibanejad is still out. And news of very important note, Marc Staal is scratched for the very first time in his career.
Yeah, 13 years. Marc Stahl's never a healthy scratch.
On Dan Girardi coming back to the Garden night.
Which was unfortunate because he didn't
he definitely would have taken the pregame face-off.
But
Rick Capiniello, which we will have on in hopefully 5 minutes or whenever we're done talking about this. But he had a great quote in his last article. He said, Girardi dropped the puck. I'm surprised he didn't block it too.
Yeah, that was awesome. But
honestly, his articles are great.
Yeah, of course. They're the best. Best analysis of the Ranger game, hands down. But yeah, Mike.
The changes they made definitely worked going into
100%.
Thursday because we started the game and ended the game, and we looked like the better team for 95% of that game.
And you got to credit Georgiev because his performance was obviously top notch. I mean,
yes,
Georgiev
it was.
played out of his mind that game. Could have won either way, I think. But yeah, I mean, you could just tell the Rangers were getting pucks in, and you could tell they had a little bit more jump just from the first period of the game.
Yeah,
with Lindgren,
absolutely.
When Lindgren got hit from behind, and then they weren't playing around, dude. Anderson comes and just freaking bodies that guy from behind.
Oh, yeah.
And it just turned into mayhem early in the game, and then, that right there, I was like, oh, shit,
actually,
this game's going to be insane.
I remember
and then
when,
you had our boy Haley knocking Big Rig Maroon out unconscious.
Yeah. I actually remember this stood out to me because I just thought it was hilarious. When that first initial scrum was going on, Lemieux was trying so hard to get into
Yes,
that
I do
pile,
remember.
and Sergachev was just like, no, just pushing him out of the way, and I was hysterical while that was going on.
I mean, that was
just
hands
hilarious.
down. So it was interesting to see that the Rangers basically had their worst game of the season,
Followed by
basically one of their best. That was one of the best games I think we saw in terms of the effort level from the Rangers, hands down.
Oh yeah,
They looked like they wanted to play that game, opposed to the Boston game where it looked like they, honestly, if they could have, they probably would have just given up in the second period. That's what it looked like.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah, man,
no,
I mean,
a lot
all
of
around.
literally, I think the only bad or like really bad negative that could be taken away from that game was what in the fuck was that 5-man line change that
was
led
terrible.
to Kucherov's goal?
Yeah. I mean,
literally,
you can't.
all 5 of them.
You can't
all
go
5
for a
of them.
5-man line change when Braden Point has the puck at center ice.
No, dude, Stamkos passed it to Point, who skated in with lightning speed, and then it finds its way over to Kucherov, and he just buries it. And I'm just
Lightning
like,
speed, no pun intended.
what?
No pun intended. Lightning speed.
Oh, nice. Nice catch. But seriously, friggin' Stamkos to Point, who skates in over to Kucherov, and I'm just like,
That was too
Really?
easy, guys. Yeah, that
Really?
was too easy.
I literally even said they shouldn't all be going for a line change right now. Yep.
But another thing,
I mean,
the positives.
that's a
too.
rookie mistake.
I mean, there was a lot of positives definitely in that game. But another good one that we were talking about Kakko before, he actually tied the game
Yes, he
on the
did.
power play.
Second goal of the season, shot, save, goes off the skate of, I think it was who the hell was it, Coburn or something?
Somebody in front.
And it goes in the net, and yeah, that was fun. Good times.
But
Good times. It's about time we get some luck, because the refs certainly weren't giving us shit that entire game.
But I couldn't have been any happier, one, that they decided finally to bring up Chytil, because that was obviously a big question moving forward. Why didn't we bring him up earlier? Probably, I think.
Well, definitely
wondering.
because of the preseason that he had.
Definitely. But no,
which
but
you
I'm
would
saying
know
even,
more than me.
I was going to say even the last couple of games, I mean, they really had nothing to lose bringing him up. But obviously he played so well in the AHL at the start of the season that they had no choice to call him up, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, now unfortunately with Zibanejad out, they were forced to, which isn't like for Chytil, it's a good thing.
yeah,
for Zibanejad,
but you know what though? I will say one thing: when they put Chytil on the line with Kreider and Buchnevich, and even they had, I mean, Kreider always skates fast, but he even looked like he had more jump to his game himself, and Chytil looked great. I mean,
speaking of Chytil,
he
scored a sick deflection goal.
That was disgusting.
Sick deflect and pass from Buchnevich.
Yeah, that was sick. I mean, that was a sick pass, but that deflection was sick.
Oh yeah,
that was awesome.
It looked like he had one hand on a stick too.
Basically, he did. Yeah, but Chytil was awesome, and Lindgren was also awesome. Definitely made a big difference.
You want to know who else was awesome that game? Fox.
Fox was also good too. But
that was arguably his
too,
best game, and he's honestly been playing great lately.
The Rangers definitely tightened up the defense in front, I would
Absolutely.
say. But Georgiev made a lot of in-tight saves, especially on the power play that Tampa had
now
later in the game.
Patty Maroon got knocked out of the game early. Hedman got knocked out of the game early.
That definitely played a factor.
I think
Hedman being out, especially.
I think it was Yanni Gord who didn't play. One of their other guys was out, and I mean, Zibanejad was out, but we took advantage of them missing players,
Definitely.
and we took it to them. I mean, we got to take this game with a grain of salt because Tampa's been struggling mightily. I have to say that, but hey, Strome scored. He's heating up. He's quietly averaged the point per game this season, which is blowing my mind.
He's been one of our best players. I mean, yeah, I think he's been one of our best players personally, but.
You could argue on both sides of that one because there's games where he's looked awful and then there's games where he's looked great.
I think the last couple he's looked pretty decent, I guess, with the exception of the Boston. But
I mean, nobody looked good in that game.
Nobody looked good.
But
really.
also Ryan Lindgren played great that game too.
And you know what? I got a little scared because he got nailed from behind on that play, and he went down like into the boards like feet first, and I was like, oh shit, this guy just broke his leg. But thank God he came out of that good. But, I mean, moving forward, I mean, they asked Quinn about Chytil staying up, and he said, you know, if he continues to play play the way that he played tonight, he'll be with this team for a long time.
Absolutely.
And I love that answer. So
honestly, the same should apply with Lindgren.
Definitely.
Should apply with Lindgren.
I mean, basically, the Rangers already are dressed. Well, I guess at this point, with Marc Staal being the healthy scratch, that would make them have 7 defensemen.
I think so. If
Because
you include Smith, yeah.
Because currently they didn't. Well, I mean, Smith has just been playing forward. He hasn't even touched the defense this year. So
except the penalty kill.
But I meant actually on the.
Oh yeah, on the actual
defensive
lines.
lineup.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Lindgren definitely looked good. He was.
Oh yeah, no,
especially at the end of the
good.
game too. I mean, that breakout that he had was nice. I just think they broke out of the zone better, which has been one of their problems all season.
Yeah.
Just Tampa still gave it to them a little bit on the forecheck, I think, and like I said, they had a lot of chances in front. Just Gorgiev played great.
Yes, he did.
So, like you said, we'll take it with a grain of salt because it could have went either way. I mean, even I think it was Chytil he had scored, or Fox that scored like right after they hit the post to almost tie it. So, that right there in itself was lucky. But
the funny thing, Fox and Lindgren both. Fox's first NHL goal came on Lindgren's first NHL point, and Fox said, "I don't think I'm splitting the puck with them. I think I'm taking it."
Wow.
That was kind of funny. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, that was awesome though.
Yeah,
that was a good follow up by him into that play to Kreider. Well, Fox figured, hey, shit, it's Kreider shooting. He's probably not going to score, so let me just get the rebound. And he knew he wasn't going to pass to Buchnevich. So.
Yeah, we forgot to bring this up in the Boston game, but Hank got pulled after 2 periods, and Georgiev played the third. They both gave up 2 goals each period.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that didn't really mean much because of how bad we played, but we forgot to mention that.
That was another example, though, that you bring it up, and we might as well talk about it. But to me, that was a game where you couldn't blame Hank or Georgiev. That was all defensive. Structure in the zone was just terrible. They just didn't play a good defensive game. You could have had freaking Pat Waugh, Marty Brodeur. You could have had anybody in that, dude, and they were still going to give up goals.
Yeah, and we're actually going to talk a little bit about defensemen when Rick comes on, which is going to be shortly. Stay tuned. Do you got anything left to say before we get Rick on?
No, I think we'll save it all for Rick. I think we got some good questions.
Oh wait, I got one thing to say. We broke the 5-game losing streak.
That's true. But
against Buffalo.
We are going to talk about.
Now we're starting a new one.
If anybody's wondering, we'll be talking about Kravtsov, potential.
We're starting a new winning streak, not losing streak.
We'll be talking about Kravtsov, questions about him, what his return to Russia means.
What the future of the defense.
Future of the defense, potentially.
Both entering November and after the season.
Yeah. We're going to ask Rick what he thinks about, so far, I guess, what he thinks about the goaltending. Because I'm curious. Definitely we're going to ask him about the defense, Marc Staal. And we might ask him some other stuff, so definitely stay tuned.
And we will be right back. And even though we didn't really take a break, we're back here with Rick Capiniello, the one and only. And Rick, how's it going?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Doing well, man.
I'm still thrilled that my Marc Staal tweet made it onto your article. So
we were just joking around. We were just saying, man, we're like, damn, that actually might be like the Rangers' goal of the year so far, besides that one that Chytil just scored last game. But
how about that?
That was something else, man.
Yeah. I just love how you were the first person to like and retweet the Marc Staal as the GOAT tweet, and I felt honored. I was at work when that happened, and honestly, that made my day.
I think we all felt that way after that. We're like, honestly, who thought Marc Staal was going to score the first goal of the season?
But he was the GOAT. He was the GOAT right then, just then.
That's right.
Because it was the Matteau goal in the exact same end of the rink, and he was doing his Brian Leach imitation.
That's right.
So he was the greatest of all time.
It was funny too because he almost did it again in another game.
Yeah.
I forget who it was against, but I think it was maybe it was the Vancouver game or something. Like early in the game, he just he had the puck and he drove towards the net, and I was like, oh shit, he's gonna do this again.
Yeah. Yeah. The funny thing with him is that for a very brief time when Torts was here, I think it was right around the 12 playoffs. They devised. He was actually on the power play sometimes because Torts thought he had more offense to give.
That's funny.
And they devised a play that was some kind of a revolution in the zone, where the guys would just circle from position to position, and it would end up with him getting a shot, like in the left circle. or in the right circle, I'm sure. Sorry. And it actually worked like twice.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I guess the Rangers had to get a little crafty with the power play every once in a while.
The power play in those days was not their strength.
Yeah, which is funny because that was
Marc Staal score goals on the power play. It's definitely a rough time.
And yet they won. Remember, they won that game, that playoff game, with the power play goal late and then the power play goal in overtime. With the who was it? Ward took the penalty, double liner. Yeah. So, and I think Brad Richards scored with like a second left or something, or maybe it was Mark and then
6.6.
Yeah. Wow, amazing.
Good times. Good times.
We were.
And actually, now that we're speaking about Marc Staal, I actually have a very serious question to ask you about him.
Yeah.
With the recent call-ups of Chytil and, more importantly, Lindgren, because he's a defenseman, if Lindgren continues to play the way he does, Hayek continues to develop, Shea he writes his inconsistencies, could you foresee a realistic situation where Marc Staal possibly gets bought out at the end of the season, especially if, fast forward to training camp next year, Miller is ready to take the step and make the team out of camp?
I certainly think that's a possibility. I wonder if they would first try to trade him, because I still think there are teams that could use a third pair, and he could do it. I watched Tampa last night with Luke Shen on their third pair. And granted, he's their 7, but he had to play. He played last night, and he's not as good as Marc Staal. So I think that Mark could play for a contender on a third pair or as a 7. And I think there's a possibility that if the Rangers ate some salary, it might be a better deal for them than a buyout.
Absolutely, it would.
Yeah, because I feel like
I think that would be the first. That would be the first and the more preferred way to go, I would think. But certainly a buyout is possible. I think the buyouts are starting to pile up on them a little bit. Although Girardi's comes off, I think it's next year, but they're going to get clobbered. They're going to get clobbered by Shattenkirk.
Yeah, it's brutal.
So certainly, it's a possibility, and it's a sticky one because nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to treat him like that. Just like nobody wants to treat Lundqvist like this next year. And next year is going to be a very difficult year for them with Lundqvist. I don't know what. I was going to say I don't know what their plan is because I don't think they have a plan yet because they don't know how to go about it yet. But it's going to be.
No, that's definitely that was one of the questions I was going to ask actually, like with Hank, because right now, I mean, Georgiev, especially with the performance we saw against the Lightning, I mean, you see how good he can be.
Yeah.
So it's definitely interesting, like you're saying, moving forward, and obviously with Shesterkin as well. Like you think that moving forward, do you think he wants to be? Do you think the Rangers are going to want Shesterkin to be like the number 1 guy after Hank leaves, or?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Georgiev is their number 1 guy.
No, I mean, definitely. I mean, it's totally. It's. I mean, you see how he plays. I mean, he plays so well. So. They're definitely fortunate in that fact.
If he plays this way, and Shesterkin plays, and he turns out to be the real deal, and he certainly so far looks like it in Hartford, then the decision becomes: do you really want 2 goalies like that? Is that really a healthy way to go about it, or do you want one of them to be number 1 and one of them to be traded?
Yeah,
and I don't think they want to trade either one of those guys, but they also have a bunch of other goalies in the system who could be the backup to Georgiev if Georgiev's the number 1.
Yeah, actually, who's backing up Shesterkin right now? Is it Chris Nell?
No, it's Huska.
It's Huska? Okay.
Yeah, and and he's doing very well too, and they really like him a lot. And then they have Lindbaum, who they drafted, who's doing great over in Europe, and they have this kid Wall, the big kid Tyler Wall, and so they're really deep in that position. And certainly they're going to have to trade 1 or 2 of them at some point. They're not trading Lundqvist. So
obviously, yeah.
and they're not going to kick him out the door next year. They're going so he's going to be around to the end of his contract.
I mean, I feel like a lot of fans kind of throw Hank under the bus nowadays, but I mean, how do you feel like he's been playing this season? I mean, because I think I'm a little biased because I love Hank, but I feel like obviously the defense hasn't been the best in front of him.
Yeah.
That's an understatement.
But I just feel like,
Yeah.
he still plays well. I mean, there's been games where he's had 40 saves already this year, So
Yeah. He had, I thought the first game wasn't great.
yeah, definitely against Winnipeg, right?
I'm trying to remember which ones he played as I get my book out here. But he, the game against was it Boston? He had no prayer. He had no prayer at all.
Oh yeah, that was just that
Oh,
game was one where they honestly, I wish they probably just want to forget about that one because it was just so brutal.
Right.
And we were just talking about it before too.
Game, it was really good.
We were sorry to cut you off, but we were just talking about the Boston game before, and it was almost like Boston basically scored. Besides the Chara slap shot from the point, they basically almost scored the same goals where it was just like pass across in front, which seems to be the Rangers' weakness. And they still gave up a lot of those goals. Well, they gave up the goal to Tampa that way, but that seems to be their worst thing on defense is like they just can't figure out how to like contain that area around the net.
Yeah, but a lot of it's on a counter too because they cough up the puck.
Well,
in the
that's
neutral
that
zone
too.
around
Yeah,
the
the
blue
breakout
line.
is definitely struggling as well.
Yeah, but they cleaned a lot of that up against Tampa.
Yes.
Except that brutal line change.
It was amazingly bad. I asked Quinn about that today. He said it was the worst line change in the history of the sport.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was, and especially because like the puck wasn't really deep enough for a line change, and like maybe they could have got away with it if it wasn't Braden Point that had the puck, but he's gonna fly in the zone.
Right.
Like
Quinn also said we hadn't really practiced the 5-on-0 rush, so we didn't feel good about Georgiev.
And Georgiev almost made the save too. That was actually the funny part. He actually looked like he almost got a pad on it. Like he saved it basically once it went past the line already. But
right. And the other funny part about that was it wasn't the Rangers that cleared it. It was it was a Tampa pass.
Yeah.
Back to the point that went out of the zone. It wasn't the Rangers didn't even get the puck to clear it before they went for their change.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah, but that was definitely the highlight of Georgiev's season so far, though, for sure. Because he played out of his mind.
Yeah, poor guy. But yeah, so I think Hank, going back to Hank, I think he's been fine. I thought the Buffalo game he gave up. I can't remember which one, but one of them wasn't very good. But he's had some games where he's played really well. I thought, but he's not. If you put up the body work from last January to now, Georgiev's the better goalie. There's, you can't argue that.
Yeah, no, you can't argue. Yeah, you can't argue the numbers, especially as well. But yeah, no, I agree with you there too. I feel like Georgiev's definitely been better, but it's also I feel like something about it, like when Georgiev's in the net too. I just feel like the team plays better around him too. I can't tell if that's just like my Lundqvist bias coming into effect, but I just feel like, man, like sometimes I just feel like the defense looks better. And I think, what do you think? Like moving forward to this season, like you think if they're just playing better all around when Georgiev's out there, like do you think they would cut Hank's time short like that in the net? Play Georgiev more.
I have a hard time seeing them playing him a lot more.
Yeah.
But I think a split would be reasonable.
Yeah, definitely.
The other thing with Georgiev too that you talk about how they play better in front of him. Well, he moves the puck.
That is a good point as well. Yeah, he's definitely more.
I think almost every goalie moves the puck better than Hank.
Yeah, there aren't many that don't. And, we were talking about that in the press box the other night. Who's the last goalie who couldn't handle it? And he won the Stanley Cup here. So he wasn't, Richter wasn't very good at it either.
Yeah, it's crazy. No, you're right. I mean, Hank is.
He really was.
Foreshadowing?
Yeah. But Hank, Hank not only doesn't move it well with the stick, but he doesn't cover the pucks and take a puck and loosen it. He catches the puck and he freezes it. And he holds on for a face-off.
Yeah.
And there they are stuck in the defensive zone. That's where a lot of their problems come from too, where they're lose a face-off and start running around.
Yeah.
So Georgiev keeps the defense moving.
That's a great point, though. I never even thought about that. Because even Georgiev just coming out behind the net to play the puck and actually help them break out of the zone better too, which is anher one of the problems they have.
Absolutely. But we noticed the games are faster when he plays because he doesn't cover the puck. He catches it, puts it down, moves it, or leaves it for a defenseman, and the play keeps going. There's no whistle, and his games are quicker.
Yeah.
So I think that helps them defensively too. So yeah, I think they do play better defensively in front of him, but a lot of that has to do with him.
Yeah. Well, another big question we had. I mean, this one, I guess you figure we probably asked this about Kravtsov and
Mm.
the team.
I was going to hold off on this, but
Oh no, I mean, I figure we might as well ask it. How does the team, feel about him going to Russia? Like, are they worried? Because I know you had written the article about it, and you didn't seem like you were too phased about
I have
it.
a question before you answer this to add on to that. There was something about a heartbeat monitor on a bike or something, and him being scratched after one game. Can you give more details into what happened? Because we're kind of guessing even after reading a bunch of articles.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's not clear it's not clear to anybody what happened, and the information's really not coming out.
Yeah.
But he claimed that his heart rate couldn't get up to 180, and that they didn't think he was working hard enough, which to me sounds kind of crazy. I don't honestly know what he was talking about, if that's why he was benched, or if his heart rate wasn't 180 when they did the physical tests, or when would they have a monitor on him? I guess they have those things now where you can put them on players during games, but I can't imagine that he was benched in his first game and scratched in his second game because his heart rate.
Yeah, that just seems a little ridiculous. You're right.
Yeah, that does.
It's a little bit harsh.
So it's a great question, but I don't think the answer is out there. And the other thing is the translation of his interviews in Russian. They're kind of vague. So I'm really not sure exactly what happened. And I raised these questions myself the other day. Could it have been avoided? Did they really have to put the hammer down on this kid in his first game? I know they said there are certain things that are non-negotiable, and I know they're trying to teach all these young kids to play the game the right way and to do things the right way and to be professionals. But did they really have to put the hammer down on a kid who was just sent down, who just had his heart broken, who worked his ass off all summer, and was a leader among the 3 Russian kids? He took those kids around. He chauffeured them around. He helped them with their English. He helped them find apartments and things, and he got them to workouts every day up at Stanford. And he was the guy. He was the leader, and so he really put an effort. And he learned English. He pushed himself to learn English. He did everything they wanted. Did they really have to put the hammer down on him that quickly? So that's a question I have. And again, I don't have the answers because I don't know what happened up there.
Yeah.
And Kravtsov and his agent are just shut everything off in terms of communication until Kravtsov started talking to the Russian media. So we don't know the answers there.
Definitely.
I can't imagine that he's going to Russia over his heart rate. And I can't imagine
no, I don't think so.
But I do think that, he has since raised a flag of maturity because of the stuff that he's done with his Instagram page. And, he took the pictures of his draft off the Instagram account. And, that's a little immature.
Definitely.
But I understand that he's hurt. But to answer your original question, if that was the original question, I don't think they're concerned. I think that they gave him the clause knowing that it was fully possible that he was going to be buried in Hartford, and he might want to get out. And I'm sure that his side and his agent put that in there.
Definitely.
Excuse me. And
I mean, I feel it could be beneficial for him too. I mean, going over to play there,
I mean, because the KHL is a more competitive league than the AHL.
So. It could work out to be positive, but that's a good point you brought up about the maturity level too, because it seemed like they almost tried to blame like his lack of effort also in the AHL. Like it seemed like you said, they sent him down and he was definitely crushed by that, and they're saying maybe that affected his play.
Right, and if you pouted, in 1991, I want to say no, 93, 92, 93. Kovalov and Zubov were here as rookies, and the Rangers were going to miss the playoffs by a lot. And they sent them down to not to Hartford, where were they? Binghamton, maybe? Mm-hmm. And they sent them down so that they could play in the playoffs down there. And they pouted. They did the same thing, and they scratched them from the playoffs. Coley Campbell was the coach down there. and they didn't want to play. So
Wow.
he sat them out during the playoffs.
That's interesting.
And it was, you know what? They turned out to be fine. They turned out to be players where effort was never an issue, where, maybe they were a little immature, but they learned, and they've turned out to be professional acting, professional hockey players.
Yeah.
And I think they think that, Kravtsov will eventually be that. Now, my thing with this is that you're right. It could be better for him to play in the KHL than the AHL, but is this going to mean that he has to start next year in the AHL? Because he's not being assimilated into the new culture with the new language,
Yeah.
and the game here. So
He's like prolonging the inevitable. Basically, it's going to happen eventually.
Right, and he's going to be 20. Next year he's still going to be a kid, a baby, and is he going to be willing to start at Hartford next year?
Yeah.
He has no choice next year.
Yeah.
Because
he has no escape clause.
I feel like
that was only this year, right?
I feel like it almost frustrates like the Rangers management a little bit because obviously we saw that Chytil didn't make the team out of the preseason, but they send him down, and at least there was no reports of him kind of like pouting or complaining, and he just plays his ass off. And then
apart from like the initial disappointment.
Yeah, but but then you see like, and then he goes down there and kills it. Now he finally gets called up, and then he plays well in the first game. So I don't know, if that has any effect on it.
And Quinn made sure to mention that he went down there with the right attitude. And I'm sure he was comparing the two situations when he said that.
Yeah.
That he went there with the right attitude and he worked and he got back here. And I don't think Kravtsov would have been here now, but I do think that, there would have been a point during the season when either injuries or Kravtsov's play would have had him at least come up for a little while. And I think in terms of his development, that probably would have been better for him than playing over there. I understand the KHL is a better league, a better competition, and he's more comfortable over there. But eventually he has to learn North America and the North American game.
Exactly.
And next year he may have to start in Hartford again. I've talked to him a lot, or tried to talk to him a lot, and he speaks pretty well. He understands your questions and things.
Yeah.
And he's a good kid. He's a really solid, good kid. And he really wanted to be here. This was really a dream for him. He wanted to be here in his draft year. He wanted to come over, and they couldn't get out of that contract, or it was complicated. But
it almost sounds like he's almost like misunderstood, kind of in a way.
Yeah, I think that's right. And again, I think maturity might play a part of that. But whatever it is, the Rangers are not worried about. He's going to be their property. He's going to be their player, and it's just not going to be this year. So there's a possibility that he wasn't going to play here this year anyway. But now there is no possibility he's going to play here, at least till very late in the season, and even then it's probably unlikely. But if he came over late in the season and played for Hartford, that would be a good thing too. You just get some of that out of the way. But
exactly.
It's complicated.
Yeah, it's and he's so young too, so it's insane. It kind of leads us like to talk about Kakko also.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, how do you evaluate the way he's been playing so far?
Well, he struggled.
Yeah.
When he has the puck, he's fine. There's nothing wrong with him when he has the puck. But when he doesn't, he's really learning. And people say, well, Matthews came in at 18, and this guy came in when he was 18.
Those guys are like generational guys, man. It's kind of hard to really compare. Like,
right, and he was a second overall pick, and a lot was expected of him, and they thought that he was NHL ready. He is physically NHL ready.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
But he's a kid, and he's learning a language and being away from home and not knowing anybody. It hasn't been easy for him, but I don't think it's going to take him very long to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I thought he took a giant step forward 2 nights ago.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like it's even like through the first couple games, I felt like a lot of fans thought that, Quinn wasn't really giving him a shot. Up until recently.
Yeah.
So how do you feel like, you think they're going to keep him up on that top line, or?
No. I think the other night he played with Lemieux and Howden.
Yeah.
And I think that's where he'll stay. And that's where he was in practice today. And and he was comfortable there, and that's probably good for him too to have. You have Howden, you have a kid who's defensively responsible, and Lemieux, you got somebody who's got his back,
Yeah,
and and little protection, and I think that's good for him.
yeah.
To
I mean,
start.
because even asking him to play on the first line, that means then obviously you're going to be matching up against another team's top line, which obviously didn't work out too well the other night against Boston.
Right, and they taken him off. They took him off that line.
Yeah, exactly.
Before that game, and fans were all up in arms. So why are they taking him off the first line? Well, they're taking him off the first line, so he didn't have to play against those three guys that killed them. I mean, those three guys just ate their lunch.
Yeah, that was brutal. I mean, when you look at that Boston line, just for a quick second to talk about them, it's like if you don't play them physical, they'll just dominate you all game, which was what we saw.
Yeah, and they do everything, and Marchand is such a pain in the ass, and Bergeron.
We know, Rick. We know too well.
And Pastrnak too. That guy's just an animal this season.
Yeah,
he just keeps scoring every game. He's insane.
Yeah, they do, and they defend too. They're not just they're a good all around line.
Yeah, that was definitely a tough matchup.
Well, speaking of top lines, Zibanejad is looking like he's going to be out at least for another game or two. So that raises the question with the first line center: who is going to do you think they're going to have a rotating first line center guy? Because I don't think Chytil's ready to play top line minutes full time, or do you think they're going to try and cram somebody in there until he gets back?
Yeah, I think right now they're gonna stay with what they had, which is Strome.
I was gonna say Strome.
Yeah.
Who has Strome quietly averaged a point per game this season.
Yeah, and I don't think they want to move Chytil away from Kreider and Buchnevich.
Yeah.
So be it.
He almost lit a spark under them the last game. It seemed like Kreider always skates fast, but he just seemed like he definitely had an extra pep to his step almost last game.
Yeah.
I mean, he still couldn't score, but
but he's a guy who his game. Well, he did hit a post too, and I thought he was really good. But he's a guy whose game is so complicated because that speed he doesn't use the speed like Hagelin used it. Hagelin used it to forecheck and to go to cause trouble in the offensive zone. Chris uses his to get into the offensive zone.
Yeah.
And to do that, he needs the puck and someone to get it to him. And the other night, while he was playing with those guys, they got it to him, but also Adam Fox got it to him.
Yeah.
And, the defenseman moved the puck up ice very quickly in that game, all game long. And so Kreider was more noticeable because of what the other guys were doing, not what he was doing. And I always think his game is more complex. Yeah, we always say, oh, he disappears and this and that.
Yeah.
But you can't notice him if they can't get him the puck because he's not gonna carry it from the blue line to the blue line. And but the thing I notice about him, and I always watch about him, if he's playing well, the pucks he recovers and his net front presence. He does those, and he's done those things pretty consistently throughout the season so far, even though people are saying, oh, he's disappeared or he's played like crap.
It's like his game goes beyond the stats, basically.
He definitely does, and he also isn't throwing his body around as much. But that all comes with not having the puck too. And he had the phantom. I thought it was a terrible goalie interference call. I thought that was a reputation call.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So here's a guy who he's got a kind of tough to really be noticeable when he's not scoring goals. But I don't think he's played terribly. I think there's more.
Definitely. I just feel like a lot of the fans get flustered because they see even in so many games, especially what you're saying when he gets the puck, and he actually does have a lot of scoring chances. I feel like every game. Yeah. So I feel like fans kind of just equate, because he led the team in goals before, so they think he might be like a goal scorer or something. He's not. Yeah. You shouldn't really expect Kreider to be scoring 30 every year. I think he could if he buried all the chances that he had. I think that's why
he's had 28 twice.
That's why I feel like a lot of fans get flustered with Kreider. I think that's what it is. I think he has so many chances to score, and they just equate that with his play.
Right, and when pucks start going in for him, he looks like just a dominating player.
Exactly.
And last year he was on pace for about 45 or something through December. And then he really cooled off, and I think he was hurt a little bit too. But when you go from 44 pace to a 28 pace again, and then people start questioning him. And you know what? And there's going to be a lot on his back this year too, because the contract, and it's virtually inevitable that he gets traded in February. So that's a lot for him to handle. And in addition to getting removed from Zibanejad's line with Zuccarello, there's a lot going on there. And I'll tell you one thing, because I'm in there a lot in that locker room, and he is the Pied Piper for all the young kids. I mean, they all
look up to him.
Yeah, and he speaks Russian,
which is big on this team.
Apparently, he speaks Russian terribly. But
you know what? He jokes that it's terrible too. But I mean, he makes the kids laugh, and they get what he's saying, and they listen to him, and and not just the Russian kids either. I mean, he and Chytil hung out together during the summer a lot, and Anderson, because they worked out in Stanford, and he definitely the Pied Piper over there, and that Ben Prentice's golf. Yeah, listen to me. Ben Prentice's hockey, whatever the heck they call it. It's not a camp, but the guy. I went in there, and there were dozens of NHL players in there.
Yeah,
and Kreider's in there, and the kids are all around him. They work out with him, and sometimes he's just watching them and encouraging them, not even doing his own workouts. So he's an important guy, and I think they would love to keep him. I don't think it's remotely possible.
No, I don't think so either, because I have a feeling he's going to demand $7 million, and in my opinion, he's just not worth $7 million.
Yeah, but he'll get that. I mean, if Kevin Hayes gets it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, he'll get it from another team for sure.
I can go on a rant about that, but I'm not going to, because I'll be here for 20 minutes.
Yeah. He's also an alternate captain now.
Is he really, Kevin Hayes?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's insane. That's funny. Yeah. We were just talking about it before because we love talking about a bunch of other Rangers guys around the league, and I had the Minnesota St. Louis game on last night, and man, they kind of roasted Zook a little bit. They showed his stats. It was like 8 games, 2 assists. Like, he's not really living up to his contract. I'm like, poor Zook, man.
Didn't he had one last night, didn't he?
Oh, did he actually score? I didn't know. I didn't end up watching the whole game. I just saw a little bit of it this morning.
I thought I saw a tweet that he scored.
I'm still speechless after the Kevin Hayes comment.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry.
No, but I love what you were saying about Kakko though. Just because I feel like this whole year is going to be like Hughes Kakko, and it's like you just had enough of it already. I feel like I'm just so sick of hearing everybody compare the two of them.
And I watched some of Hughes' first 5 games or so. He was terrible. He was overmatched.
Yeah.
And you could see. I mean, he wasn't big enough, and he's going to have to really be good to survive in a bigger league like that.
Yeah, he's going to have to be. The one thing I like about him, I would say though, I feel like he's definitely like a dynamic skater. He's got some speed to his game. I think he's been playing better though. I think he has like.
I agree.
I think he has like 5 points or so, right, or something like that in the last
he has been better.
10 games or 9
absolutely
games.
Absolutely has. And he's obviously a more mature, perhaps, definitely a more confident kid. And like Quinn pointed out the other day, his family comes to his games, and he doesn't have any language problems or any, he's played with a lot of these guys.
Yeah, he's used to the ice and everything too,
Yeah, so he doesn't have the issues that
Kakko has.
I think Kakko's going to be good. I don't mean he's going to be good in the future. I think he's going to be good soon.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of fans they just get so crazy, and then you got to realize that guys, relax. It hasn't even been 10 games yet in the season.
Right.
We got plenty of games to go.
Right, and when they drafted him, people had all these ideas in their minds that he's going to come in and get 40. Panarin's going to get 40. Trouba's going to be a Norris contender. Fox is going to win the Calder, and they're going to make the playoffs. And let's more than tap the brakes here.
Yeah, it's not the reality of a rebuild.
Panarin could live up to all that, but the other guys shouldn't be expected to be all-stars this year or to be. I mean, Trouba you expect to be a good player, but the other kids can't be expected to be dominant players at their ages with no experience, like no AHL experience, no minor leagues, no. And Kakko hasn't even played in North America, so I think that everybody's eyes lit up, and I understood the excitement when they got him, and I was even on board thinking, they might make a run for the playoffs. They might, because I think the East is weak, and I thought there was a chance that they could get 87 points or something if they play as hard as they did last year. I don't think that anymore. But it's a. I hate to use this word because I sound like AV, but it's a process. And you can't do it. I mean, you can't just flip the switch on these kids, and you can't expect them to assimilate into the best league in the world seamlessly. So
So you think that answers like kind of like the Quinn haters? I feel like, because I feel like a lot of people kind of throw Quinn under the bus sometimes. Like
it's such nonsense.
I think he's got I think a lot of people were getting on him for changing up those lines, me included. I feel like it was kind of like driving me insane after a while. Where it's kind of like
Quinn definitely deserved a little criticism, but it got very blown out of proportion very quickly.
Yeah,
that's my take on that.
But the criticism for Chytil being sent down for Brendan Smith is asinine. The fact that Kravtsov went to Hartford because Quinn doesn't like him is asinine.
Yeah, it's all like media speculation.
Wasn't on the first line in the first game is asinine. I mean, let's be a little realistic here. And the other thing is, he does hold these kids accountable. And is there a double standard? Yeah, maybe there is a double standard. But who's he developing here? And what's his job? And what is the mission statement? His job is to develop these kids. And he doesn't even know if he's going to be here when they're good enough to turn around.
Yeah.
But his job is to develop these kids, and if that means spanking them a little bit and being the giving them a little tough love and putting them on the bench and making them watch film and just being the bad cop sometimes, that's his job. And these fans think that he hates these kids.
No.
They thought AV hated JT Miller and hated Buchnevich and hated D'Angelo, and Quinn hated D'Angelo and Buchnevich last year. It's just not the case. He's trying to make them the best players they can be, and it's really worked with D'Angelo.
Yeah,
definitely. I was literally just about to bring that up. You beat me to it.
And I was going to say too. I mean, even like Chytil, I mean, he has no problem sending him down, but I mean, look at the results so far. If he can continue to play, I mean, it's like that would be the best example almost, like you said, besides D'Angelo.
The other asinine argument is Elias Anderson should be the second line center instead of Ryan Strome, and that. To me, that just doesn't make any sense. You're going to set the kid up for failure.
Yeah,
he's not ready for this. He hasn't played great. He's been fine, but he's projected as a third center. Absolute upside, top upside is second.
Yeah.
But he's not ready for that now. So why are you putting him up there? Why do you want to put him up there? Oh, well, you can't play with Haley and McKaig and Brendan Smith. Well, he can play with those guys. Those guys will protect him a little bit.
Yeah, actually, you put it perfectly in one of your articles the other day, how people were complaining left and right how he didn't get moved in the lineup, but you said straight out his play didn't necessarily warrant him going further up in the lineup. And you were right about that.
It hasn't. And Howden's been better than him. And Howden shouldn't be looked at as a number 2 center either, but Howden's been better, and Howden's a better skater.
Yeah,
and I think Elias Anderson's going to be a good hockey player, and he's a leader, and he's a pain in the ass, and he's got really good instincts. He's hard to play against.
Yeah, I've seen him throw the body a lot this season too, which I like. So I actually do like him on that fourth line.
Yeah,
he goes well with those guys.
People's problem is their expectations get too high too fast, and then of course the word bust comes into conversation way more and way earlier than it should.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens too with they see he's a 7th overall pick in the draft. So they're always going to equate everything he does to that, It's the same thing with Kakko, 2nd overall. They're going to use that against him his whole career. So
Right. It's, most of that criticism I think is asinine, and most of the idea that Quinn is playing Brendan Smith because he's trying to win a game as opposed to trying to develop a kid is just 180 degrees wrong. And I see this guy. I see him every day, and I see him practice, talking to these guys and pulling them aside and working with them, and the assistant coaches all working with these kids. And Brendan Smith's not getting any attention. He's just, Brendan, go do your job.
Yeah.
By the way, he's been fine. By the way, he's a good fourth line forward.
Yeah, exactly. Who freaking knew Brendan Smith was a good fourth line winger?
Yeah. Who knew that, right? And he's been fine. And he's much better there than he is on defense.
Yeah, plus he draws a lot of penalties.
That's for sure.
I mean, I don't remember us scoring on a power play that he drew, but he's been drawing a lot of them.
I bet if you looked it up, he has. They have, and but he's he's good, and he's a little tough. And then the other issue is that for the first 3 weeks or 4 weeks, they didn't want him. They didn't want Hayek or any of the other, or even Brady Shea killing penalties. So that's why Marc Staal was playing too. So Staal and Smith, because they didn't have any left shot penalty killers.
Speaking of left shot defensemen, one last hockey question. Yeah. I mean, we all know on the right side, Adam Fox after the first game's been honestly great for a rookie. But the question is Hayek. To me, he's been okay. Some people have been saying he's been awful and he needs to be sent down. Wow. Please provide a silver lining for this. What do you think?
I think he's been terrific, especially the last few games. He was awful against Boston.
Well, so was everyone.
But he
was the one that slid into Pasternak, right, on that play.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what he was thinking there.
Exactly. But but who wasn't bad?
That's true.
I think he's the best of the bunch right now, and I think he's much better than Lindgren. I think he's he doesn't have the flash of Fox and the puck handling, but he moves the puck really well from defensive zone. He defends very well. He's a little physical. He's a little bit nasty around the net. I don't see how people have any problem with what this kid is doing, unless they don't know how to pronounce his name, and that pisses them off. I mean, people are all in love with Lindgren because he fought Wayne Simmons in the preseason, and Lindgren, I like his game too, and he's a good kid and he's a good hard player. But he's not as good as Hayek, and he's certainly not as good as Hayek has been most of the season. I thought Hayek was tremendous the other night against Tampa. So I don't get some of the stuff, and I know that hockey's a game where every set of eyes sees things differently, and certainly that there are flashpoint players who divide us and divide the conversation, and people love or hate. So maybe not everybody agrees with me, but I know that the GM and the coach agree with me, and I'm not saying that because I want to be right. I'm saying that because I talk to those guys, and they love his game, and they think he's really going to be something good.
No, I would agree. It's just the kid's, is he 20 or 21, Hayek?
21.
21?
Yeah.
Oh, what I'd give to go back a year.
Basically, I mean, but with the whole lineup, I mean, without Marc Staal, we don't have a defenseman that's over 25, right?
Exactly.
I think I saw in your article.
Yeah,
that in itself is insane. So
it's amazing. It's amazing, and that was the third time in the 93-year history of the organization that they had that many 21 and unders in the lineup. The third time.
Wow.
Yeah, the last time was Dave Maloney's rookie year, or its second year or something.
You know what? I was going to say I wasn't even a thought, and I just said it, but I don't know. Anyway, last question that's not hockey related.
Yeah.
Did you or did you not dress up as Batman today because it is Halloween?
No, damn it. I didn't. Not only that, but we didn't get a single trick-or-treater tonight because of the rain, I guess.
Honestly, I didn't get many by my house either, which is surprising because we usually give out like 230 pieces of candy.
Yeah.
Yeah, today we didn't even, we may have given out 100 because we were giving out 2 each.
Nice. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't dress as Batman, but I did find on the internet a whole bunch of Batman stickers So I'm putting him on everything. I put him on my lawnmower, my snowblower, my push cart, my golf push
You have
cart.
to put one on Quinn's jacket next time you see him during an interview. Slap it
one
on the back of
my
him as
phone.
he's walking away.
There's one on the back of my phone. There's one on my laptop. So they're everywhere. So yeah. So I got that going.
Well, we know next time that if Quinn walks off the stand, there's a Batman sticker on the back of his suit. We know who did it.
Yeah,
That would be amazing.
Next time you have to identify yourself when you're asking a question during an interview, you should just say, Batman from The Athletic.
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
That's right. That's awesome. But
I did wear my Batman mask earlier in your honor. Yes, I did. I actually, when Brendan came over my house to record, I literally answered the door in it. He just started laughing.
I am so proud of you. I can't even tell you. But listen, how much would you give me if Quinn walked out of a press conference with a Batman sticker on his back? You think we get a collection going?
We have to start a GoFundMe.
Not gonna lie, I think I would honestly give you at least $50 for that.
We would have to get you tickets to a game.
I would do it for 20.
That would be incredible. But it's a pleasure as always, Rick. We appreciate you coming on.
No, it's always fun for me to do, and anytime at all, guys. Just let me know when.
Yeah, we
also
appreciate
let us know when you want us to sit next to you at a game. The Rangers might actually play good.
Yeah, we're joking around. So far, me and Mike at a game. We were at the Buffalo game. They're 1-0. So, yeah, we throw it out there. So.
Well, next time, come by and say hello.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, for sure.
All right, I'll message you on Twitter. That way, you don't have to give up your location via podcast. I'll try and save some. I'll try and be a little discreet about it.
Please do. Please do.
Yeah, it's a pleasure as always, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, everyone listening, please check out Rick's and everyone else's articles on The Athletic, which I am currently subscribed to. Great way to get hockey news and other sports, but I just use it for hockey because that's me. Brendan, I don't know how the hell I don't know whose login you're using, but it's working.
All of Rick's articles, so definitely the best articles for Rangers for sure. So
yes,
definitely give them a read if you haven't, and especially if you can't watch the games, definitely the best place to get your info for sure. So
and Rick does provide a lot of funny things throughout his thoughts on his articles. I laugh at least once or twice per article.
For sure. So if you 100% makes the read way better as well. So
yes. So Rick, thank you very much for coming on. Happy Halloween.
Same to you guys, and thanks so much for that nice little plug you just gave. That was really sweet.
Anytime.
Thank you so much.
Anytime, man.
You're welcome, man. You're anytime, man.
Happy Halloween.
You too,
Happy Halloween. Don't eat too much candy.
See you guys.
See you later. Oh, good times. All right, time to do an outro. Well, that was Rick Capiniello from The Athletic. Always a pleasure having him on. Get a lot of good insight. Have some laughs.
Yeah. I honestly really love the insight with Kreider.
Yes.
And the Kravtsov insight. It was definitely a really good insight on both of them. Really get a little bit more of the behind the scenes, especially with Kravtsov as well. Because that's a lot of stuff I never realized from an outside perspective, but you don't realize, how heartbreaking that is for somebody that basically gave so much effort over the offseason, and then for him to get crushed like that, you don't really realize, the effort that he put in. So it's cool for Rick to give us that inside stuff, and especially with Kreider too, man. You don't realize how important he actually is to the core group of these young guys we have. So it's definitely awesome.
All right, well, that's pretty much all we got. Follow us on Twitter at Backup Blue Pod. We are also we post the episodes on YouTube and Podbean. Give us a follow or subscribe.
Yes, and we will be getting on iTunes, definitely. We're going to figure that out.
We are going to try and get approved.
Once we get on iTunes, I want to say we're most probably going to be off of Podbean and only on iTunes and YouTube probably. I stick with Podbean, but I think it's just easier. I think it's just easier for everybody to access iTunes personally. But anyway,
YouTube and Podbean, Backup Blueshirts.
I know that we were talking about. Obviously, we wanted to develop a logo, so we're going to be working.
That's in the works.
We're going to be working on that. So stick with us. I know we're slacking, but we want to be a little bit more dedicated to it this season. So expect more from the pod. I will declare this right now. Once we have this logo made, I will get on Twitter and I will be more active on the Twitter account to help us get out there.
That's what I'm talking about.
So, bam, that's it for me today. That's it.
Just remember, Twitter, Backup Blue Pod. This has been Backup Blue Shirts, episode number 21, dedicated to the one and only, unfortunately now he's bald, Derek Stepan. And we will see you, or talk to you, hopefully next week. Catch you later.